Rolling on the river. Boys, I just want to say thank you for your time. And also, this is the first three-way conversation we've had on the podcast. So, we're going to get
your
downright
first
and personal.
Three-way.
Hey, now.
Technology, you rookie.
You know? I
used to do this. Usually a lot prettier, but whatever.
Are you talking about me or are you talking about Mike?
No, it's all good. I don't do beards normally, but yeah, whatever.
It's fine. I can shave for you. It's all right.
Yeah, exactly.
Put the baby face back on.
Clean shaven is better. Clean
All
shaven
right,
is always better. There you go.
We're already starting on a weird note. All right, cool.
It's always
Three
weird
ways.
here,
Here we
man,
go.
you know. But
you started.
the Divergent team. This thing is next level. It is revolutionary, and it's also cool as fuck, in my opinion. I'm gonna let you guys introduce it because I will just bastardize it with my Manc way of speaking. So, team, take it away.
Right on. So I'm Mike Ramirez. I'm the owner of Divergent Fitness, and so my career began in the early intervention field. So I was working with people with autism, PDD, NOS, which is pervasive developmental disorders, and so I was mostly working in the clinical setting, and then spent about 10 years doing that, and then I was approached by a parent that was looking for some movement for their son. And from that, I created a company that basically works with people on the spectrum. And then somewhere along the lines, I met this guy. And he's the owner of StrongFit, and I'll let him introduce himself.
Yeah, well, I'm a movement specialist. I mean, honestly, I've been in sports and fitness my whole life. Like I've been, competing since I'm 8 years old. At soccer, I think was the first one really. But I did like all the sports. I've always been into fitness. This is the only thing I like to do. And so I'm a movement specialist first. And so I created StrongFit. But I've always had a wide array of interests, let's call it this way, right? I've always studied things outside of my own line. Even though I was told many times to stay within it, I decided not to. And so when movement did not answer all the questions that I had, let me put it this way. So I decided to stay within movement, but to go a little bit past it as well in order to look for certain answers. And then that led me to the nervous system. That led me to the next thing, And so now I'm at a stage where I try to apply everything that I knew about movement toward the nervous system, trying to go toward, I don't want to say mental illness, but mental difficulties. Let's put it this way. So that range from anxiety to depression to, for example, the spectrum. The spectrum is not necessarily a disorder, but it is a very distinct learning process that can create anxiety as a result of society not being quite ready to incorporate people that are on the spectrum. So, and you end up in a place where you realize that movement is an integral part of the answer. And so since you have mostly academics that do not understand movement, or movement people that do not understand the science of it, there is a gap between the two things that I'm trying to mend, trying to cross in my own way. And so the working with Mike in that sense was obvious because he's been following me for since the first seminar, so 7 years ago, whatever it was.
And something like that.
And then he has a gym that is literally applying movement to the neuroatypical population, whatever you want to call that.
Neurodiverse,
and so naturally,
let's call it that.
Yeah, exactly, diverse population. Let's use words that try to offend the least amount of people. And so we naturally started working together because honestly, we both feel it is needed, first of all, and he has more meaning than adding 5 kilos to your deadlift, which is great, but after a while, it's not as meaningful as helping other people.
Now you just offended all the power lifters.
Hey, I'm on your side, fellas. You know me, I lift heavy. So I'm always there for lifting heavy, but maybe, I guess my view of it is that the fitness can be more than what it is right now. I think we are falling into a very dangerous fallacy of letting money and corporation tell us where the fitness industry should go. And I find that to be, in a way, a slow death of people like me, like Mike, probably like you, Alex, who want to see fitness being more than just losing 10 pounds, charging $3.99 for 1 million people on the website or stuff like that. This is a big corporation view of the world. This is a Starbucks view of the world, where I intend to be a hipster coffee shop, right? I want to do my brand of coffee, being a hipster always, obviously, but also being a craftsman, right, at what I do. And who knows, maybe sometimes coffee goes past simply what you drink on your way to work. I'm French, so what food can do toward culture, toward bringing people together, is, I know that from my own culture, is tremendous. I believe movement is a little bit the same. In the functional fitness field, I have found a lot of people that are passionate and have their heart in the right place toward helping people. I think, though, the big money, YouTube being one of them, is driving, and TikTok now, driving the fitness industry toward a big corporate type of business model that I find very dangerous. So with Mike, we decided to do our own thing because it means more than that.
I love it. I love it. Like we were saying before, Mike, of like fitness is the catalyst, right? It is a start line and getting everybody to that start line as possible. But then you can go in whatever direction you want, right? It's not just, hey, we have to walk along this tightrope. It's like, no. But I don't want to go in and do 3 sets of 10 bicep curls. You know, I don't want to step on stage and get thick skin lean. Like that's not what I want to do. You know, like how are we gonna help people's lives from fitness, quote unquote, just this weird thing that we're bound to, right? How do we move around and how do we make it inclusive of everybody, of all the different demographics of people, right?
And maybe honestly, like if stepping on stage and not abusing drugs is your way out of, for example, like alcoholism, let's do that. Right? Sometimes the world is not perfect, and making you deadlift 300 kilos, if that's your way out of drugs, for example, well, let's do that, because it's a lot healthier. It's not the healthiest thing necessarily, but it's a lot healthier than other choices. So fitness can be in any form, can be a way out of a lot of bad stuff. And so, but then we need to understand people then, not just percentages and stuff like that. I mean, and so that's where I think a large part of the fitness industry is getting away from, because they just don't want to go into stuff they don't understand fully. And so instead they just discuss percentages. And speed set and all that stuff.
That's why they mostly fall in love with, programming and things like that. So the way I see it, as far as my experience working with Julien, that's really what opened up these different avenues. And because, I worked with the autism population for a while, but then all of a sudden, I'm getting people coming into my gym saying, look, I have panic attacks, I have anxiety and stuff. And now I have a way of helping them with that. So, you hear it all the time in the fitness industry. You want your fitness to carry over into real life. I think this is a much more meaningful way that we can address and actually impact people's lives. Like, you want to get a little bit stronger, but what does that have to do with your mental health? Or what does that have to do with your life in general?
Yeah, I feel like it's
it can have to do with it.
That's 100%. Like everything works in synergy, right? And I feel like that comment is kind of been thrown away recently of just like, oh yeah, it helps your life. I was like, coach, but how? Like how are we doing this? So like, oh, don't worry about it. Like it's gonna help your life.
Just squat. Just squat. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of times, because I've been around a lot of gyms, and you look at the intake process, and it's like there is always that question of like, why are you here? How can we help you? Right. But sometimes even the person coming in, they're not ready to share. They don't know, and they don't want to share that part, because that's a scary thing. So us creating the divergent model, or pretty soon, I believe Julien and I are gonna create something, a new different way of describing this for people out there, is that now we're creating an environment for people to come in and share that part of themselves, and to actually, in a practical way, help them through those things. And it doesn't just involve movement in itself, but like he said, it's understanding people. Because the way that Julien works, like I've been a student for a while, and the way that he's explaining things to me about myself, and then the way I approach the training itself, those two things a line, and now I can take that into a real world situation, like doing a podcast or talking in front of an audience or whatever it might be. You know what I mean?
And it's not just a mindset. Like, that's not what we're saying either, by the way, because a lot of people, we don't understand that there is a science to the body. And if you look at, this is where most of biology and neuroscience and everything is going now. Like, there's a guy named Michael Levin that everybody should go look on YouTube. He has fascinating lectures about biology and the bioelectricity. And basically he's talking about the software. Like, everybody talks about DNA, which is the hardware, but it seems that the software matters actually almost more than the hardware. Not more, because they're both necessary, but you get the idea. And what he's explaining is that there is no difference between the body and the mind. They're the same thing. They're part of the same unit. So there is a science to understand that, understanding that the nervous system guides movement as well as it guides mental health or illnesses when there's a problem somewhere. But the two are the same thing. They impact each other one way or another. So when you're training, you're not just training your body, you're training the entire system. And part of that system is your mind. So it's mental health. So it's not just training, it's how do we train, right? What if I do a set of very hard sled push? What does that mean? How do I come back from that? What if I freak out? What if? But there are ways to control breathing, to use breathing in rhythm, to use certain types of movement versus other, 5 reps versus 20 reps. What are the difference toward the nervous system? How do I push them through, movement and breathing and everything? And does it affect the mindset? Well, it turns out it does. And it's not just from a psychology perspective, we're talking from a physiological perspective as well. So once you start to understand the science and the movement, you can actually cross that bridge maybe not easily, but in a simple way. And so that's what we're trying to do. We're trying also to show that it's all the same. So you don't want to get stuck into that mentality of, I'm just going to do percentages. There is a deterministic way of looking at the body that is very, very wrong in today's science, at least at the mid-level. Right, the top level, people understand nothing is deterministic. There's a reductionism that is happening in fitness that is, I think, money-based, to be honest, but completely wrong. So we're trying to go past that with Mike, going like, all right, well, turns out movement affects you a lot more than you think on a much deeper level. And if we can understand that, we can control it. And if we can control it, we can help people.
Absolutely.
I can relate to that comment even more. I can't agree with it anymore of just like the body, movement affects you. It sounds so simple, right? I think us, when we start getting into fitness, we get into it because we're just these kind of primal barbaric creatures that like to move around and throw things around and play sport, right? At first, And I think just dumbing it down to that, I've just been like, here you go, here's a sandwich of just like, keep it simple, stupid. Guys, if you move around, it's going to cause some sort of response. And it's like, oh, okay, now what do we do? Well, which direction do you want to go? Right. Positive or negative? Exactly. Let's try and go towards a good one. Right.
Exactly. Right. So how about we study that?
Yeah.
Right. How about we, instead of looking at it like it's a psychology issue, what if it's a physiological as much as an issue? What if physiology and psychology are actually not that far off? Right? Because this is where a lot of the top science is starting to point toward, that everything is information anyway, one way or another. So what if we start to study that? When I do this, this happens. When I do that, and then we can start to create an hypothesis that we can then test and make good science. But again, the reductionist approach, that's 19th century valedictorian English thinking. Let's like that early stage of science where they had to be reductionist to get away from religion. All right, we're not there anymore. This is 200 years ago. We can start to, and again, that's what YouTube does, right? YouTube is about the science of dumbbell versus barbell. I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake, like, people, come on. You know what I mean? Like, all right, Ronnie Coleman was doing barbell and dumbbells. How about you do both? And how about you shut the fuck up and then train? And then we can start to see what happens. Because a lot of times people want answers before they do the stuff. Right? That's the problem when you start selling stuff all the time. It's like, now people, because they get stuff for free, want all the answers before they start training. I got news for you. You can't learn to swim on a table.
Yeah, it's so true. And usually if you're looking for that secret, right, you're not training hard enough anyway. Just
there is no
something.
1,000 crane secret technique. There's none of them. It's quality work over time. Sorry, like you're gonna have to do the work and you're gonna have to do it for a while.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
The wolf is
the
always
issue
scratching.
is the issue with that is that nobody wants to buy, or you can't sell that one. And secondly, nobody wants to do that one. You know what I mean?
It's exactly that. Yeah, it doesn't sell well. That's 100%. But if you see what, I like watching Mike work. Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
I was going to say it's more flashy to see, somebody tell you that here's the one exercise that's going to help you grow your glutes or whatever, and some Instagram model showing you that, than Julien and I telling you to do the openers. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I love watching Mike work because he has some very difficult students, right? That are non-speakers, sometimes aggressive, like they're just difficult to deal with. And I've seen Mike taking one on and having as a victory the kid staying more than 2 minutes in the gym. He did 2 minutes to exercise and he left. That was a victory because the day before he couldn't come into the gym. So him coming, doing 2 exercises, leaving was a big victory.
Yeah, it was.
Right. Imagine defining that as a victory at Equinox.
No, hell no.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but there's coaching for you. It's not the glutes of that internal model. It's not the 6-pack. It's not 20 kilo on the deadlift. Sometimes it's that person showing up in the gym and managing to get a workout.
A workout, yeah.
It's not that simple, man. It's never that simple.
Sometimes the win is walking through those shutter doors, right? And actually just getting to the gym.
Just do it. I don't care how, but sometimes it's that. It's just don't
100%.
quit.
Yeah.
I don't care if you have to put half the weight and do half the rep. Just go to the gym and do the work.
Yeah.
And at some days, I don't care how you do it. Some days I'm at 70%, but I go to the gym and I do the 2 sets instead of 3 at 90%. You know what I mean? Whatever.
Yeah.
Go to the gym, don't quit. Just do it. But I don't care how low you have to do it, but do it. Because that exposure therapy will lead you very far. But that's coaching. That's getting your athlete through the door, at least through the door. And let's do something today. Right. So, but if you don't see that as a way to help people, like how are you going to see that as a win as a coach? And sometimes, honestly, so to me, I'm sure we all seen The Empire Strikes Back, right? When Luke goes to train with Yoda and he's on Dagobah and he wants to enter the dark cave. And he asks Yoda, what will I find in there? And Yoda tells him, whatever you bring with you. That was one of the deepest statements I've ever heard. Because if you look, most of the time, how many times in life do you fail because you are in your own way? The problem is you, not the situation. None of that is your reaction to the situation that is holding you back, right?
Correct.
As a coach, it happens also very often. Sometimes it's about your client, not you. Yeah, maybe it doesn't make you look like a badass in your own gym. Maybe they're deadlifting and they look like shit. Yeah, but it's better than yesterday. And sometimes that's what they need. Not what you want, but what they need instead.
Yeah.
And that's Mike at his gym. I've seen Mike coach day in, day out, and it's never about him. It's always about, all right, what is a win for that student? And sometimes it's not a big one in your eyes, but for the student, oh my God, was it a big one? Right? But that's not the Starbucks approach. You can't build, it's a different idea.
You cannot Starbucks this thing for sure.
Yeah, it's based upon marketing and getting, Instagram pictures and reels and stories, and it's like, oh, that's not going to get me 1,000 likes. I'm like, no.
It's even hard in my gym to be able to do that, because I know, there are other coaches in my space, but like if you were to just run a camera in my gym, nobody would want to see that on Instagram, because autism is messy sometimes. Like he said, there's students that come in and they're having aggressive behaviors and stuff like that. And it's like, how do I show that? That wouldn't even be ethical, I don't think. So what do I show? So now we're only in Instagram to see the positive side of things, and people will applaud that because it's like, oh, look at that guy. He looks like he's having some difficulty, but he's working through it, right? But what about the other parts? The parts where I'm getting beat up, scratched, my shirt pulled, bitten, stuff like that, to show the real side of it where there's some challenges. And because if we're going to move this forward, we need coaches that understand, first of all, what autism even is, which we need a new definition. We need a new way of describing what that is, and then helping them understand how to work with people on the spectrum. So that's the project that Julien and I are working on, because to first of all give more accessibility but better quality of coaching, we need to inform people. There needs to be awareness. There has to be the right language. You have to look at autism in the right way, because the medical model for a while, I mean, where has it gotten us to this point? You know what I mean? And so I know the work that I've been doing for the last, let's say, 7 years with Julien has made the most impact on the students, because we now have a facility that people come to that first and foremost, they feel safe in that environment, and to be able to actually work on the conditions and challenges that they face. But we need more coaches to be able to do that.
And by the way, not everybody is ASD. So the problem is people associate autism and ASD, but that's not the same thing. Autism is not the same as ASD. ASD is autism spectrum disorder. It's a syndrome disorder, depending on who's talking, but that's taking autism to the point of a disorder. But that does not define autism. It's not the same. Autism is not a disorder. It's a specific learning system that, taken too far, ends up as a disorder, which is true of all systems. There is no function that we have that is not a disorder when taken too far. You're thinking about anxiety, for example. Taken too far, you have a panic attack. That's not good. But that's not to say that a panic attack is anxiety. Those are different things, right? A little bit of anxiety is good. It makes you do stuff. We just don't call it anxiety. We call it excitement. But it's the same idea. If you take it too far, you get a panic attack. So it's a bit the same thing for autism, that we have a certain function, a system in place with autism, and then we look at ASD as that. So Mike deals with very difficult students all the way to the end of the spectrum toward ASD. But you also have people like me that are what they call high functioning people on the spectrum, where you would never, if I don't tell you, you would never know, because I know how to act in society, because I've learned with the years to act a certain way, make jokes all the time, do stuff like that, so that I understand people's response. So this is learned behavior. Because sometimes, like, the intent is hard for me. That's called theory of mind. The intent sometimes is hard for me to figure out. So I've learned by watching people and see what they do. I've learned to understand and putting myself through that intent so that I could understand others. So there's an entire thing there, right? But I don't have the same requirements. But there's certain things in the gym where, like, certain sounds bother me. Cleaning products, when I train, I want to kill everybody in the gym. So weird stuff like that. But so that means that you could offer better places for a lot of people on the spectrum with just knowledge of what that population looks for. So, and a population that is vastly underserved. So imagine if we could have a place in functional fitness where we made gym just a little bit nicer for example, high functioning autistic people. You would increase your business a lot, trust me. Then you have people that deal with a little bit more serious stuff. Like, so it's a bit more anxiety, it's a bit more things. All the way to ASD, that of course would require way more experience to deal with. But there's an entire population there that has a hard time going to gyms because of specific stimulus or stimuli that can make them, that can be overwhelming a bit. So there's a business model for you.
Yeah, it's planting that seed and getting people think about it.
Yeah. It's just that. It's like, and it doesn't require you changing your whole gym. It doesn't require, it's just you acquiring a certain amount of knowledge, right? So we can try to shape coaches toward understanding something better, because honestly, there is no conversation on autism right now. It's either ASD and it's the system, either the school system or the medical system in place, and that's it. And so, but people like Mike know that's not true because he deals with them directly. So it's nothing is that simple. And Mike is actually is the one who got us in contact with a lot of academic people, because they're like, all right, like the whole, like, it's all a DNA or it's all like a mind thing is not making the needle move forward. What's making it move forward is it's going to be a combination of the body and the mind together.
Yeah. And how do we accommodate for that, right?
Yeah, we gotta go. Well, most of the stuff in terms of therapy is always from top down. If they go from bottom up, it's usually in a passive way where there's like a manipulation of the body.
Yeah.
So what we need more is from bottom up.
Wow.
Right. That's the key. Bottom up means the body. That's what it means. Yeah. So exercise will be the gateway to that, because we require people to be active, not just passive. I love the Wim Hof stuff, but you're in an ice bath. This is still passive. Right. So yeah, there is a stress on the body, but we can do the same thing through exercise, just in a far more active way. So I've been going through that for years now, trying to explain to people the role of exercise on the nervous system and how it can be applied to, for example, anxiety and stuff like that. But even toward autism, it will be a huge step in that direction. We just need to start going there. That's all. We just need to move the field to open a new door so that people can see, oh, look, there's something over there.
Exactly.
Yeah, man, 100%. Like, you got to start asking those questions, right? Mike, you jump off whenever you need, bro.
Cool, man.
You do your
Thank
thing.
you, guys.
I appreciate it so much, man. We'll talk soon.
Sounds good. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, bro.
So yeah, the thing is asking the questions. And so what you see in the fitness world today is a reluctance to do that, because I don't know if they're afraid of getting, like of going against academics, of being shamed for being just personal trainers or just functional fitness, CrossFit coaches, whatever. Like, the word science is used as a weapon right now. Like, whenever you start asking questions, people come at you, well, what's the proof of the science? I was like, well, before you start testing, you have to have an hypothesis first. Science is hypothesis proven right or wrong through testing. But so what you have now in science is a bunch of bureaucrats getting really good at testing. I'm like, all right, but if you don't know what you're testing, that's not science either. So they just go around testing everything, having no clue what they're testing about. Because there is no hypothesis, it is still not science. Right? So you see that even in physics, and where they're starting to have issue, math, even sometimes biology, is they let algorithm get data out of situations and try to draw pattern out of that. That is not science. That's what they call data-driven science, but actually it's not science at all, because what you're doing is within a context, you're letting the numbers draw an hypothesis, but that hypothesis is only valid in that context.
Yep.
So that's why you see a lot of study that cannot be replicated. So what it requires is a human to make a hypothesis and then a computer to test for it. But the hypothesis has to be made first. And unfortunately, in science today, we're moving away from that because we have a bunch of bureaucrats that are really good at testing, and that's where the money is. The money is always testing more, better. That's all they talk about, right? And so asking questions is not seen as the way to go right now. And so imagine fitness coaches asking questions. Then I think somewhere they were afraid of being laughed at. And so no one is going there. Everybody knows what we're talking about right now. Everybody listening to is going to go, oh, I know that. Yeah, I know that. But just no one wants to go there. Because it's a tough world on that one. And let's be honest, trainers are never considered the smartest people on earth. And so when you start asking questions, most of the time it's like, yeah. Just go back to doing squats and let the adults talk. I mean, let the grown-up lead the conversation. But the problem is on the other side, on the academic side, they do not understand movement. So if you want to start working from the bottom up, who are you going to ask? And that's the issue I think we're facing. So it requires courageous individual in the fitness industry to go like, all right, let me see what's up. And that's why you see Mike that's most of his clients. He has 80 to 100 clients, and he has a few non-neurodivergent, but that's why he call it divergent fitness. Is most of his clients, that's what they call neurodivergent. And that's what he does, all the one-on-one classes, things like that. So it requires the courage of people like Mike going around, going like, let me make an impact in my own community. So at least we can show that movement is the key forward. And then not just movement, by the way, not just bottom up, top down, obviously, but we need top down and bottom up. We need both, right? So that we can move the conversation and the science forward. And so you start to see here and there some people willing to be open to the idea. So there is hope, at least in that sense. But my personal hope is that we can drag more fitness coaches into that space in the middle, where they can learn enough of the science that their experience with movement will lead us toward offering a new type of service, in a way, or a new type of help.
And also have the humility to say when you don't know, right? I think that's got to be the biggest thing is like, oh no, why are we doing this, coach? Is like, oh, because I said, like, just fucking follow along. You're like, no, you can say, in fact, actually, I don't know, let's go figure this out together. You know, give me 2 weeks. I'll come back to you.
Best answer ever. Best answer ever. Let's do this together. Always been the best answer ever. Right. And yeah, it's been an issue on many things, and that let's just squat, let's just do this and everything. And I understand it's a scary place to not know and to have to go out there and study, and you're tired at the end of the day because coaching people is very draining. It's not the best business ever. If you're in for the money, usually the fitness industry is not your place. It's like having a coffee shop. Don't do it to become a billionaire unless you have 1,000 of them, obviously. So it's a difficult space, but I think honestly in the fitness industry we can contribute to society a lot more than we do, and I believe that with my heart of hearts. I mean, like I think we are the chosen people, because how many times do you go see your doctor? Like twice a year. You see me 3 times a week.
Yep.
If I'm a trainer, right? And I'm the one who's listening to you, making you do stuff. I'm the reason you can play with your kids on the weekend. I'm the reason you can get off the couch without back pain. I'm the reason with all this. So, all right, so let's push that a little bit further. Let's see if we can go into science, push the science a little bit, and see that